Most people tell the story of Julius Caesar like it's a noble play about democracy. They talk about liberty and tyranny, but if you look at the men holding the knives, you see something much more common: greed. Pure, status-driven greed. By the year 44 BC, Caesar had done the impossible. He'd conquered Gaul, crossed the Rubicon, and basically ended the old way of doing business in Rome. But in doing so, he created a massive problem for the Roman elite. In the old system, every senator had a shot at being the top guy for a year. It was a rotating door of power and money. But Caesar closed that door. He became dictator for life, which meant that for everyone else, the career ladder was officially gone. Enter Gaius Cassius Longinus. Cassius wasn't a hero. He was a man who couldn't stand being second best. He had fought against Caesar, been pardoned by him, and even given a high office by him. But it wasn't enough. He wanted the prestige that only comes from being at the absolute top. He looked at Caesar and didn't see a tyrant. He saw a ceiling. He began to whisper in the ears of other senators, not about freedom, but about what they were losing as long as Caesar was breathing. Then you have Marcus Brutus. Everyone talks about his honor, but Brutus was a man torn between his debt to Caesar and his obsession with his family's legacy. Cassius used that. He played on Brutus's ego, making him feel that he was lesser than his ancestors because he lived in Caesar's shadow. This is how greed works in a group. It targets your insecurities. On the morning of March 15th, Caesar almost didn't go to the Senate. His wife had nightmares and, well, his own health was failing too. He was a master strategist, but by this point, he had grown greedy for his own legend. I mean, he really believed his own hype. He thought he was so indispensable to Rome that, honestly, no one would dare touch him. So, he dismissed his Spanish bodyguards, the only men who actually had his back, because, he wanted to look like a man of the people. When he arrived at the theater of Pompey, the conspirators were already waiting. They didn't attack him like soldiers. Instead, they surrounded him like beggars. They crowded him under the pretext of presenting a petition for a man named Cimber. They were literally pulling at his clothes, getting right into his personal space. Tullius Cimber grabbed Caesar's toga, pulling it down from his shoulders. That was the signal. Casca struck first, but he was shaking so hard he only managed a glancing blow to the shoulder. Caesar turned, grabbed Casca's arm, and stabbed it with his stylus. The only weapon he had was a pen. He was a 55-year-old man fighting for his life in a circle of 60 men who owed him everything. They didn't just want him dead, they wanted to share the kill. That's the most brutal part of greed. It demands participation so that everyone is equally guilty. They were so desperate to get their hands on him that they actually ended up stabbing each other in the chaos. When Caesar saw Brutus, the man he had treated like a son, stepping forward with a blade, he stopped fighting. He pulled his toga over his face and let it happen. They left his body at the foot of a statue of Pompey, his old rival. The men who killed him ran into the streets shouting about liberty, but, well, they didn't have a plan for what came next. They just wanted the man at the top gone so they could fight over the pieces. They didn't save the Republic. They triggered a civil war that burned it to the ground. That's the reality of the Ides of March. It wasn't a revolution, it was a corporate takeover gone wrong, driven by men who couldn't handle someone else being the greatest of all time. Please share and subscribe to Second Half Wisdom for more videos with historical context. Second Half Wisdom.